Joining me is Sky News US correspondent Annelise Nielsen. Annelise, before we get to something very important that our government needs prodding on, probably some would say more important than Meghan Markle, although I still insist that I am looking here at a civilization in decay and a prime exemplar of that. You were also among the first to listen to this podcast that's created headlines around the world. What did you make of it?
Well, you know, I'm royal obsessed, and this came just off the back of me reading Tom Bower's book on Meghan Markle, and he admittedly didn't get access to the subject, but he spoke to 80 people around her, and it was interesting in that context to listen to what was put forward in this podcast. It felt like such a missed opportunity, just from a journalist's perspective. If I could have sat there, the questions would have been so different. And one of the things I really picked up on was Meghan was constantly making comparisons between herself and Serena. And she was saying, when I was 11, I was writing to dishwashing liquid companies about their sexist ads, and you were, you know, starting off your tennis career and drawing all these similarities. You know what was a really interesting similarity? The relationship with their fathers. In this book, Tom Bower says that Thomas Markle, who was obviously one of the main sources for this book and did get quite a flattering portrayal in it, was really strong in pursuing Meghan's career with her. He supported her along the way, and of course now they don't talk. But that could have been an interesting topic to discuss when you are talking about how women break out of the stereotypes that are put on them. What else wasn't discussed? Serena's relationship with her father. I mean, that would have been a really interesting context parallel to draw. And, I don't know, it felt like a long hour. And you know, it was really the kick in the pants at the end. I was like, at least she didn't use Duchess of Sussex. And then right at the end, she signs off, I'm Meghan. And then immediately the editors say, Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex is the co-editor. And it's like, we're still doing this.
We are. That's a meal ticket. I thought it was quite interesting. You're quite right. The whole thing was about us two together, me and you, Serena. Me, who went and caught a royal and got him to marry her. And you, who have trained all your life since you were a kid and sweated and grunted and overcome injury and fought for all those tennis titles over years, conquering against all the odds. We're alike. Marriage, tennis, I mean, seriously. Anyway, what's been the reception? I mean, has Spotify got some return for the $20, $30 or $45 million it's paid Harry and Meghan Markle?
Oh man, well, we're getting a dozen episodes, we've heard. So next week we get to hear about Mariah Carey. I'm trying to figure out what archetypes limited Mariah Carey. I was looking her up, and her biggest claim to fame is being the Queen of Christmas. So very excited to hear that one. But the reception's been pretty mixed. It just seems like people are getting a bit tired of it. There's the huge support on Twitter. Immediately there was just so many tweets about how amazing this was, groundbreaking, how this was going to be so influential for young girls. But I'm sympathetic to the topic. I actually think it got really interesting at one point when they were talking about how the media reacted differently to Serena Williams' anger on court compared to men. I think there's actually some substance to that discussion if they delved into it further and hadn't kind of gone back onto Meghan saying that ambition wasn't a dirty word until she joined the royal family. The other kind of jibe I saw at the royal family come out in this was they were talking about that incident in South Africa, and she said, well, I can't possibly go out and do a royal engagement. And she said, well, the focus was more on how things looked than how it felt. I mean, that's just being British. How did she not anticipate that this is what the British sensibility is? It's keep calm, carry on. The Queen lived through the Blitz in London. I think trying to relay that story back to her would have been like, oh, that's nice. And it kind of made me wonder, what have Kate and Wills had to deal with that we never hear about? Because, I mean, in that scenario, obviously that would have been terrifying. Kids can suffocate really quickly with that kind of smoke. But, I mean, no one was hurt, so they would have had that stiff upper lip, the British style, and moved on and not shamed their hosts. This is kind of embarrassing for the South Africans. It makes it sound like they've got really subpar accommodation for royals when they come visit. So I'm guessing Kate and Wills would have dealt with stuff like that in the past and no one would ever hear about it. So, I don't know, I kind of took that perspective as well. I'm still going to listen to all the podcasts, though. You can blame me for keeping her going.
A fire ripping through Windsor Castle, didn't she? She dealt for the fire ripping through Windsor Castle.
Yeah,
destroying all these treasures. Stiff upper lip, keep going.
She stopped with Prince Andrew.
To something, well, yes. Oh, God, don't go there. But something that's going to wipe the smile off our faces. Australian journalist Cheng Lei.
Yeah.
Now, it's been 2 years since Chinese police grabbed someone that you knew well when you were working in Beijing with her and threw her into jail for allegedly betraying Chinese state secrets. Now, she's been unable since then to talk to her husband or her children here in Australia. Our ambassador was even banned from attending her trial, and she actually seems to be a political prisoner, if not an outright hostage. Her real crime, it seems, was posting criticisms of China's response to the COVID pandemic, and that couldn't happen. Cheng Lei's family's now released information about her. What and why?
Look, it's just getting more desperate. And yeah, I have been quite close to this. I didn't actually know Cheng Lei that well. I only met her a couple of times in China, but I had a lot of respect for her and have just kind of become increasingly involved as time has worn on and this has gotten more frustrating. Her kids are just really desperate and sad. They haven't been allowed to talk to her in 2 years. And I mean, the Daily Telegraph has been really good dealing with this and the delicacies of it, because this is just, there's no blueprint for this kind of situation. As much as this isn't unusual in a global context, there's no one way to deal with it. And we're dealing with some really precarious political times. And so I think the hope is that the new government might be able to make some headways, but we're still just really scared for her. And we want to see her home with her children. So this is why this is becoming more urgent. And her partner's been more emboldened to speak because he's not in China anymore. And so there's not the same restrictions as there once were. And look, we just want something to happen. And we're relying on these once a month visits for signs of life, to hear how it's going. And it's gone on way too long.
Well, good on James Morrow and the Daily Telegraph for getting together some of the letters she's written to her husband, and also the photographs that we also see of a ransacked apartment after she was arrested.